Hello, everyone. This is biology. We're working on Module 14, and today we'll be doing the class notes for page 5 and page 6. What we're talking about is insects, and we are talking about metamorphosis. Now, metamorphosis is a life cycle where the forms, like the actual form of the insect changes. Now, the first diagram represents complete metamorphosis, and the second diagram represents incomplete metamorphosis. Okay, in complete metamorphosis, there's four very distinct stages, and we're going to start off with the egg. Now, in an egg and a sperm have come together and gotten fertilized, and an embryo grows. Now, eventually that egg hatches and becomes a larva. And the job of a larva is to eat. So it eats and it molts and it eats and it molts and it eats and it molts and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And when the right time is right, it will surround itself by a covering called a pupa. Now, a pupa can be silk, like a cocoon, or it can be hard, like a chrysalis. And basically, that's just a little case where the organism goes and transforms itself into something completely new, which is the adult. Okay, the adult's job is to mate and lay eggs. And some adult insects don't even eat. They just look around for a mate. Some last a few days, some last for months. Okay, an incomplete metamorphosis, as you can see all these forms except for the egg, if you see this, as it progresses through the different sizes, there is actually, it always looks very similar, and that's why it's called an incomplete metamorphosis. And each one of these young stages, of course, this first one is an egg, and that's the same as the egg over here, but it hatches into what's called a young nymph. Okay, the young nymph looks a lot like the adult, but it's still incomplete. And it grows and it molts and it eats and it grows and it molts and it eats, and it will grow into a later nymph. And then it will grow and eat and molt, and then eventually it becomes an adult. Now, an adult can usually fly, and it can also mate and lay eggs. Whereas the earlier stages of the nymphs could not. Now, insects will do either incomplete metamorphosis or complete metamorphosis. That's one of the characteristics of an insect. So let's talk about some different orders of insects. Now, this is not all of the orders of insects. This is just a few that are more applicable to us and interesting, but there are many, many more. So the first one is order Lepidoptera. The examples are the butterflies and the moths. And the characteristic that truly sets them apart is their scaled wings. Remember, those scaled wings are made of powdery scales. If you look at them under a microscope, you'll see very tiny translucent scales. The effects of the order Lepidoptera is they are very beautiful, but the larvae are often very destructive. Well, let's talk a little while about the difference between moths and butterflies. So, first thing we're going to do is talk about antenna. I put it over here so we can just write it once. Moth antenna are feathery, where a butterfly antenna are more like straight sticks with knobs on the ends. When you talk about the body of a moth's body is fat and furry, where a butterfly is slim and it's not furry. We'll put smooth down here. And when they're resting, like resting on a flower, a moth will perch with its wings open, where a butterfly will perch with its wings closed. Now let's talk about order Hymenoptera. Examples: bees, wasps, and ants. Characteristic, they have membranous wings. Remember, those are the clear wings, and you can see the veins on them. They are social insects, which means that they live in colonies. Now, these are order Hymenoptera are huge pollinators, which honestly order Lepidoptera is too. But they're huge pollinators. They can cause some destruction, as in carpenter bees and some kinds of wasps, termites, things like that. They do destroy things as well. But on the plus side, they do make things like wax and honey. So what is honey? Honey is actually digested nectar. It's usually food for the queen and for the drones. And they also store the food, and worker bees will use it when there's no other food available. So we'll call it worker bee backup food. So, like in the winter, when there's not much nectar, they will eat honey, but they prefer nectar. Now let's go on and talk about class Coleoptera. Or order Coleoptera. Examples of this are the June bug, the stag beetle, the ladybug or lady beetle, And of course, the bombardier beetle, which we'll talk about. Basically, it's all the beetles. And their characteristics of they have horny wings. See those shell-like wings, so they're called horny wings. And those wings cover up the membranous wings. They can also have horns on their heads. And most have mandibles, and they're quite the predators. Now they have both good effects and bad effects. Some of the good effect is they will eat harmful insects, like the lady beetle, ladybug. But they can also destroy good crops too by eating them. An example of that was the Japanese beetle. There are certain crops that the Japanese beetle loves. So let's take a minute and talk about the bombardier beetle. This is a picture of a bombardier beetle, and it has a very special defense mechanism. It has two chemicals and a special chamber. Now, when the bombardier beetle is threatened, it mixes those two chemicals together, and the chemical rate reaction heats up to about 200 degrees. Now, at 200 degrees, it's going to burn whatever it touches. And the bombardier beetle can actually shoot out this liquid and burn any predator that's trying to get it. So it shoots this stuff out of an opening in its abdomen. Next, we're going to talk about order Diptera. Examples of order Diptera are flies and mosquitoes. Everybody's favorites, right? Okay, characteristics is they have a pair of membranous wings. They're very agile and quick, so they can get away really well. They're hard to catch, but they're easy to kill once you catch them because their exoskeleton is weak. They also have stingers. Oh, they do not have stingers. Actually, nope, I made a mistake. Let me back it up. There are no stingers, but their mouths can pierce and suck. Some of them. So a mosquito is actually not stinging us when it bites us. It actually is piercing it with its mouth with its mouth. Affects pain, but also it can cause disease. Both flies and mosquitoes carry diseases. Let's find out about flies. Flies actually carry viruses and bacteria on their bodies. And so when they land, it gets on the food. It's also, they also have the pathogens in their digestive tract. So when they release enzymes, oops, it's a T, not a K. T. So when they release enzymes, the enzymes that are released are to digest the food, but they also carry these pathogens in their enzymes. Now, a mosquito actually carries these pathogens as parasites. So they're actually like live inside of the mosquitoes. Now um, they pierce the skin and go into the blood. And while they are doing that, they're spreading those parasites. The crazy thing is that they have a chemical that they in their saliva that actually numbs the area and prevents your body the blood from clotting. So we'll say a chemical in the mouth prevents clotting. Now the last order we're going to look at is order Orthoptera. Now the examples of order Orthoptera are the grasshopper and the cricket. Now they have a pair of membranous wings that cover no, they have a pair of leather-like wings that cover the membranous wings. They have a pair of large jumping legs. They also, the males can make a chirping sound. Now, this chirping sound is called stridulation. And I'll explain it over here on the left. Basically, stridulation happens when pegs on the hind legs run over a sharp edge on the wing. You can kind of see that those hind legs are rough, aren't they? So pegs on the hind legs run over a sharp edge on the wing. and it causes this chirping sound. And different species make a different kind of sound. Now that finishes our class notes for Module 14. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, please let me know.